Flesh these issues out a little bit further with our Brains Trust on all things American. Today it's Tom Switzer and Stephen Loosley. Thanks very much for your time this afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon, David. Tom.
Firstly, to Obamacare, both leaders, as we heard there, have fallen into line with the Supreme Court's decision. They're both describing this as a tax now. Now, Mitt Romney could be accused, Stephen Loosley, of flip-flopping, but at the same time, Obama has brought in a new tax. How's this going to play out?
Well, we have a circumstance in which the United States tax power has never been in doubt, certainly not since 1937 when the Supreme Court upheld the Social Security Act of the Roosevelt administration. But the Obama administration didn't want to campaign either legally or politically on a tax. So the Congress called the imposition, those who didn't take out health care, a penalty. Now, Chief Justice Roberts and the court has ruled that in reality it is a tax. Now, here you have a circumstance where that's become very clear, but the Romney camp has moved about in it, saying no, it's not a tax, yes, it is a tax. This is because of the problem of the health insurance legislation that Governor Romney passed while he was governor of Massachusetts. Now, the Wall Street Journal actually said for the Romney campaign this may be a very, very difficult circumstance, perhaps even a turning point. It's certain, though, that the court, having upheld the Affordable Health Care Act, delivered a real fillip to the Democrats, and it's caused a circumstance in which the Republicans are seen again to be divided on the issue of health care. So, in all, it's a slight political plus for the administration, for President Obama, though still a lot to debate. I agree with our contributor from CNN, though. The economy is going to be decisive now that this healthcare issue has been determined legally by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, we'll get to the economy in a minute. Tom Switzer, at a voter level, what do you think is more powerful? The idea of a tax and perhaps Americans losing some freedoms when it comes to healthcare, or the fact that they're going to actually get universal healthcare?
Look, whether it's described as a tax or a levy, the fact is that Obamacare, as it's known among the Tea Partiers and many Conservatives, the Affordable Care Act, is overwhelmingly unpopular with the broad cross-section of the American people. I think there's a plurality of voters that make it quite clear. Now, Justice Roberts, in making this decision, has really given the voters the right. If they want to repeal Obamacare, their only recourse to action is to do so at the ballot box, which is really the true democratic way. I've been struck by how much criticism Justice Roberts has been copying from many Conservatives, from the Wall Street Journal editorial page to National Review and to even many Republicans in the House and the Senate, grudgingly. This was a big decision. But I think that ultimately the best way of rallying the Conservative base, and remember Mitt Romney's big handicap throughout the course of the Republican primaries was to rally the right wing of the Republican base. It'll be helped now because the only way they can repeal it is via the ballot box.
Well, Mitt Romney over the last day or two has actually taken a vacation, whereas Barack Obama has really hit the campaign trail. He's been doing it in a campaign bus, as the presidential candidates often do. It's quite an old-fashioned way of doing it, but they seem to like this. And Obama focusing today on Ohio. This is a crucial state, isn't it, Tom Switzer?
It is indeed, and you may recall in 2000 the big swing battleground state was Florida. It all came down to those Chads. Well, in 2004, the Bush-Kerry race, it all came down to one state, and that was Ohio. Significant amount of electoral college votes, and as you said before, a Republican really needs to win that state if they have any chance of winning the White House. Look, Romney did very well actually in the primaries. The conventional wisdom in the lead up to the Ohio Republican primary was that Rick Santorum would win it because he could appeal to the more working class Reagan Democrats, manufacturing areas. But Romney did very well among that crowd, but also among a lot of the independents who can vote in these primaries. These independents were based in the outer suburbs of Toledo, Ohio, Cincinnati, Cleveland. That's where this state will be won. It's those swing voters, and all the available public polling evidence indicates that although a lot of these independent voters are socially moderate, they are incredibly fiscally conservative, especially in light of this skyrocketing levels of debt and high rates of unemployment.
Barack Obama has actually ramped up his rhetoric against Mitt Romney, saying that he was in charge of companies that were pioneers of outsourcing. Stephen, loosely, how do you think that sort of comment will sit with voters and in light of the importance, I suppose, of these job figures that are coming out overnight?
Well, the presidential campaign tour is called Betting on America, of course, which is a backhanded slap at Mitt Romney's period in Bain Capital, where it's suggested he bet on offshoring on overseas destinations. The president's numbers in terms of the electoral demographics of the United States show he's weak amongst white working class males, and of course very often they're Democratic heartland. So this tour, which begins in Toledo, finishes in Pittsburgh over the next couple of days, sees him with some very prominent and very popular Democratic senators, Sherrod Brown, Bob Casey, Debbie Stabenow, who, all of whom from memory are up for re-election, all of whom are well ahead in the polls. The polls have President Obama ahead in these battleground states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Indeed, quite a reasonable lead at the moment. Ohio is very important, as Tom suggested. No Republican wins the presidency without Ohio, and Ohio was voted for the successful presidential candidate, I'm calling on memory here, I think on the last 10 occasions. Now there are other states moving about, David. Virginia is in the Obama camp. North Carolina appears to have slipped out of the Obama camp. Florida is going to be very important. The Democrats carry Florida, along with New York and the Northeast, California and the West Coast. It's all over. The Republicans, however, carry Florida and most of the old Confederacy, Texas and most of the South. It comes into the battleground states where the president is at the moment, Ohio, Pennsylvania, to a lesser extent in Michigan. So this is an important campaign effort by the president, and it's focused on an area of his demographic where he's weakest amongst white working class males.
Barack Obama was also in Colorado earlier this week, where wildfires devastated many homes and businesses and huge areas of forest as well. Let's just hear some of what he said when he was there, first of all.
One of the things that I've tried to emphasize is that whether it's fires in Colorado or flooding in the northern parts of Florida, when natural disasters like this hit, America comes together.
As we know, leaders can gain some political capital from trying to bring the nation together in tough times like that. But really, Tom Switzer, this also was a demonstration of how to handle natural disasters. Put that up against how, for example, Hurricane Katrina was handled. That was an example of what not to do, I suppose.
That's true, although bear in mind President George H.W. Bush, President Bush's father, in 1992 handled Hurricane, I think it was called Andrew. This was the hurricanes that damaged Florida on the eve of the 1992 election campaign. He handled that very well, as he did the LA riots a few months earlier. And it didn't seem to really help him much in the polls. Look, I think Obama's done very well here. As a statesman-like performance, was presidential. Colorado is a key swing state. I think it's 9 electoral college votes. They're very valuable. The convention, the Democratic convention, was held in Colorado, I think, 4 years ago. He'll get something out of this, but don't overstate the significance of this. Ultimately, it will come down to the economy and those unemployment figures especially.
OK, unfortunately we're out of time. Stephen Loosely and Tom Switzer, thanks very much for your insights, though. We'll look forward to speaking to you as we draw closer to November and the final result.